Hi friends! So it's Thursday Thoughts today. I have a really big and important one. This is actually supposed to be the day before yesterday. Day before yesterday. Okay, so we're catching up. Appreciate your patience. For those of you watching, I'm creating that course and also working full-time plus my business and the side. So I'm definitely getting it all figured out. So check out that course if you're interested. Okay, now to get into Thursday Thoughts. So today we are going to talk about patterns repeating. Man, is this a topic? And this is something that excites me to talk about, something that excites me to study. And it's basically talking about how we perpetuate cycles from the parent to child relationship or caregiver to child relationship, right? Because it's interesting. So it can be very confusing. And even reading all the media in the world for years, can be really confusing to kind of understand how this parent to child cycle works and how the patterns are passed on and how we can prevent that. Okay, so first, these patterns are passed on when we, and actually, let me start with one more thing, is that the patterns that we get, so like let's say we have a parent who's really angry, right? So these things or these toxic patterns aren't passed on intentionally, right? This is a part of who the person is. Now, this doesn't give them an excuse not to change, right? So we all have to grow and have the motivation to change and be someone better. But if we want to know the why, and the why is very important, the why is always important in my strong opinion, that the why is going to help us understand how to fix it and how to move past it if we know the why. So what happens is, I'll use an example. So let's say that you have a parent that does not allow you to talk back. Okay, what is talking back? Talking back is learning how to assert yourself, assert boundaries, understand what your opinion versus others' opinions are. It's learning how to speak up in conflict for the first time when you disagree. So talking back could be your parent says, go to your room, and you say, I don't want to. Don't you talk back, okay? And let's say you do talk back, and instead the parent has an angry, violent reaction every time you talk back. If you talk back or you challenge, you get an angry reaction, okay? Violent reaction. One that's angry enough to give you PTSD, because let's say this parent's very angry and violent in general. So if we look at this and then we follow the pattern into this child who's now grown up, their life, they very well may repeat that same pattern if they are not willing to change. So what'll happen is they then will tell their kid and get very angry when the child talks back. And why is this? Why is this pattern being repeated? Why do we see this happen? And a lot of the time it feels like the person doesn't know how to change it, which is interesting, right? Like you'd think just the knowledge of knowing I want to be different is going to fix it, but it doesn't, not always. So what we're actually looking at is PTSD. Complex, a lot of the time, PTSD. So what's happening is during these situations, the parent is feeling triggered from when it happened in their childhood. And they go into this PTSD spiral where their reaction is defensiveness, right? So they're just trying to cope with their past and they're trying to cope with the way they were taught. And then when someone challenges them, it brings up emotions of feeling powerless again in their own situation. So what happens though is this is very traumatizing to the new child. They get violent, right? So now the new child has this PTSD that they don't know how to control because they have not yet dealt with it. They didn't know it was PTSD. They just thought it was how parents raise their kids. And now they continue this cycle of the violence, and then the child then picks that up and then doesn't know they're going through this PTSD that is controlling their emotions and their life. So what a lot of it is we're not working through the trauma. We're not working through that original trauma. So why was that anger present in the first place? It's not that the child talked back. It's not about the child. It's about the reaction. And why do we have this strong PTSD reaction? Where did it come from? And most of the time we don't even know it's PTSD. And it could be complex PTSD where it's a mental trigger. So maybe you all of a sudden start feeling very shameful and suicidal when someone says something to you. As an example, a good one is criticism. So a lot of people are really sensitive to criticism, and some people get violent when they have criticism. Some people get violent, they get suicidal, they get manipulative, they get vindictive when they're criticized. They and it's why is this? This is because they got this same reaction from their parents when they would speak up something that they wanted to change, something that they wanted to move. They would also get this PTSD response, this anger, this vindictiveness, and it was traumatizing. And that's what they absorbed. They absorbed the same emotion, the same energy. And it became traumatizing to them too to get treated like this. So how do we break that cycle, right? Because you can look at this with anything that's being repeated. You're picking up basically their trauma essence, and it's just being passed to you. And I think complex PTSD is really valuable to look into. Just PTSD when we're looking at these things and how it passes from parent to child. So what we can do to work through this is do some deep shadow work. Okay, so let's say we notice that whenever we're criticized, we start to get vindictive, we start to yell, we start to get angry. What's the best thing that we can do to stop that cycle, to break that chain? Okay, the first thing is that we start expressing our emotions, and we express them beforehand, and instead of acting, you know what, we'll separate that into a different one. So first is going to be expressing your emotions, so letting them out. And it's not going to be in the situation. What you're going to do is want to express them afterwards. So you can write, you can feel, you can cry. And it's just going to be important to really get those emotions out, because if you don't get them out, they stay tucked in, and then they come out in this burst of energy that comes out onto the other person, child, whoever it is. So the next thing, maybe even goes before this, is going to be do not act. For the life of you, if you can, do not act when you feel that trigger. Walk away. Walk away. That is the safest thing you can do for everybody. That's the safest thing you can do for yourself. It's the most loving thing you can do from yourself. Walk away. So if you get triggered, someone criticizes you, take some time to walk away. Take some time to write. Let it all out. Get angry. Scream in your car. Start, allow yourself to feel that low. And to really just know that what you're feeling is not reality. Just because right now maybe you feel suicidal, or maybe you feel like whatever you're feeling, doesn't mean that that is truth. Doesn't mean that you're totally a worthless, horrible, awful person, like our brains like to say when we're in those criticism modes, right? Because a lot of the time when we get criticized, it's like our self-worth goes from like here to all the way down to like a -9, and it's like, I am the worst person in the world, I am shitty, I am scum of the earth, I deserve to die, you're so right, I'm just a horrible human being. And it's this trigger from when our parents or the caregivers were like criticizing us, right? They were criticizing us, but they were criticizing our personality. And maybe it was very often. They were criticizing our personality. And they were saying, instead, you are worthless. You are dumb. Basically what's being said inside our heads. And if that's being said inside our heads, we're going to say that to other people, because that's what we're hearing. That's what we're used to hearing. You are scum of the fucking earth, right? Like, I don't know how many of you have heard stuff like that to, you being called, or maybe they didn't say that exactly, but basically that was the essence of what they said to you. So you internalize that. And so when you're mad, you speak what you hear. And that's where toxicity happens, right? Because we've internalized this very painful, not true view that is used to control us in a lot of ways too. Because if you feel that bad about yourself, you're not going to be able to do anything productive with your life. You're not going to have the confidence to make a difference. So the point is, walk away. Don't express those emotions because they're not true. So it's a projection of your past. It's a projection of your past. Breathing through it and knowing that because I feel like I'm this horrible human, maybe you need to go through that PTSD breakdown. Maybe you need to just feel it and just let yourself feel like what you're feeling. Cry it out. Feel like a horrible person. Have like a mental breakdown if you need to. I know that I get them. So like sometimes I'll just have to just like go into a little ball and cry, hyperventilate, and just have my little breakdown. And I just get it out. Just get it out, because when you're getting it out, you're getting out those emotions. You're getting out those suppressed emotions that you were suppressing, that your parents were suppressing, that your parents' parents were suppressing, your parents' parents' parents were suppressing, or caregiver. And you're breaking that chain. And when you walk away, you're not then, and you don't do it to your child, you're then not giving them the same influence, right? So communication is the next thing. So communication and communicating what it is that we need to the other person if it's safe enough to do so. Not all of us are in the position where it is safe to be able to communicate that to someone else. Maybe they don't know how to hold space, or they're not somebody who can hold space for somebody who does have this level of trauma, right? A lot of people, it does make them uncomfortable, or maybe they got their own that they don't want to deal with, or maybe they've just never been in that kind of situation, and so they don't know how to deal with it, right? But what we can do is we can still communicate it. So even if they don't know how to hold space, if we're strong enough, we can not really care about that and instead just know that we communicated our truth. But if we're somebody who needs validation, which most of us are, then it can be important to go to a therapist or go to somebody who's trained in this, right? So going to somebody who can really help. And I know not all therapists even know how to deal with it. I've had several therapists who didn't know how to teach me what I'm saying right now. I had to find that on my own. And I think that soon enough, the person or the thing that we need to communicate will come forward, but it's just a matter of trusting. And it's a matter of, like I said, not projecting it onto the person, because if you want to break the chain, you need to do something different. We need to do something different. And so that's going to be part of it, is just walking away. Don't say anything while you're mad, because anything you say in a low vibration is not going to get you high vibe results. Okay, remember that. Anything you say in a low vibration is not going to give you high vibe results. Why? Because you're putting out what you get. What you put out, you get back. So if you're putting out low vibe, you're going to get low vibe back. If you're putting out high vibe, you may not get back right away, because for some people they're in such a low vibe state that they're only putting out low vibe. But if we're at high vibe, then we're not on the same level, and soon enough, typically, they'll raise to our vibration, or they walk away and they're uncomfortable, or they lower and they relax and they're like, oh, okay, they calm down, they come to your level. But it takes a lot of strength to do that, especially when we're angry or we're hurt or we're triggered. And it takes practice, and that's like one of the biggest lessons from the universe, to be able to have this kind of trauma. Like, what a skill, what a life, what a world-changing skill for us to be able to learn to keep our vibe strong in the midst of tornadoes, for us to be able to stay that tree, not get our roots pulled out of the ground, to be able to stand strong with a deep breath. Chaos around us, but we are in our space. We have strong boundaries. We take a deep breath. We're not angry. We are not allowing it to get to us to make us upset or triggered. Instead, we are centered. With a deep breath. And with that, we can then come in a state of love. And we can come in a state of just pure intention. And that will change the world. I'm telling you, this will change the world. This is going to change the world. So staying that tree, because think about it. How much happens in this world because people get triggered? How much of this violence and these wars are caused because people have PTSD they have not yet resolved? And because they have so much power that they are willing to step on people in order to get to where they are, because they are so disconnected. They are willing to drop bombs on whole communities because they have so much power that they're triggered, and instead of just being able to scream at somebody and maybe even punch them or hit them, what they're doing is they're projecting that onto whole communities because they don't know how to release and they don't know how to deal with their trauma. They don't know how to stay strong in themselves in the midst of chaos. This is a life-changing understanding for all of us humans, to be able to be that tree, be that tree, be that tree. Surrender to the universe. You are a conduit to allow yourself to be a conduit in that moment, in that midst of everything around you bad happening. You are powerful, and you are powerful to do beautiful things. And it's a matter of not letting the outside world get in. You are your energy, and your energy shines. So this was the super powerful conversation I had for y'all today. I hope you watched the whole thing. If you did, let me know in the comments if you made it all the way through, because there's some super powerful stuff in here. Okay, so I hope you all take care. Let me know what you thought. Let me know kind of what this brought up. What are you going to do to make that change? What are you going to do? And like I said, shadow work. Looking up, and shadow work is, how do I do this? How do I stay calm in a bad situation? Learning coping techniques, CBT. Getting a therapist who's actually experienced in PTSD, getting a therapist and trying them out. Like, you don't have to stick with anybody. I've been through like 7 therapists, not 9, like maybe 9 therapists, and I don't even have a therapist now. So, but I've learned something from all of them. Learned who I didn't want to be, learned who I wanted to be, etc., etc. All right, take care. So much love, so much love. All right.